All right, good afternoon, everyone. Just want to welcome you to the Bike Commuting 202 class. My name is Kalisa Bowling. I've met some of you before. I see some familiar faces. I'm a senior regional planner at SANDAG, and I manage our sustainable transportation services. So this this bike class is part of our bike education services. And for those of you who are not familiar with our services, we offer free bike education classes and group bike rides for employees, as well as free classes and bike rodeos for schools and youth organizations. So if you're interested in having a class offered at your place of employment or at a youth organization or school, then you can sign up on our website. I think Melina just put that in the chat. Many of your employers may also already be a part of our employer commuter program, but if they're not, we encourage you to reach out to us at sustainabletransportation@sandag.org, and that's also on our website. So without further ado, I'll pass it back to Kevin, who's the instructor for today's course. He is with the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition as a league certified instructor and has been doing this for, I believe, over 20 years. So on to you, Kevin.
Thank you. Yes. Uh, 20 sounds like an insane number to say out loud, but yes, I think, let's see. I've been on staff at the Bike Coalition for 10, and yeah, I've been an instructor since probably 2006 or so, 2005. Yeah, we're getting there. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. This is a great turnout. We had more people sign up who aren't yet here, but you'll get a recording of the class afterwards. And if your friend who said they would come isn't here, then you can send it over to them. This is Bike Commuting 202. So I'll start. Well, let's see. How do I start? I'll start. First of all, my claims to fame, the reason why I'm qualified to do this. I am certified as a cycling instructor through the League of American Bicyclists. I've been teaching these classes for a long time. And as Lisa said, I get to go all across San Diego County to do it. So there's employers in San Ysidro, Oceanside, everywhere in between. A lot of schools as well. I go to high schools, colleges, middle schools, elementary schools, spreading the good word. There's a lot of different types of classes that I teach, including Bike Commuting 101, all about e-bikes, bike-friendly driving. And I mentioned those because those are not what this class is. This class is Bike Commuting 202, and it has some specific things about it. So if you wanted a class that was more focused on specific rules of the road, we have those classes, and I'll touch on some of those things today, but not as in-depth as I would in Bike Commuting 101. If you were looking for a class that went in depth on e-bike types and differences, I will cover some of those today, but we have an e-bike specific class that covers those. So, as mentioned, I'm happy to come into your specific workplace and do a presentation for the employees. I'll bring some pizza. We'll make a day out of it. But for today, this class specifically is Bike Commuting 202. Now, these are the topics that I get questions about the most, and these are the questions that sort of necessitated the creation of this class maybe 5 years ago. That said, one of the benefits of this presentation format is that we have a chat window. Hi, everyone. So because the chat window exists, it's a great way for you to provide feedback to me. And also, if you had a specific question that you wanted an answer to and you were worried I wasn't going to cover that question, feel free to put it in the chat. I would be happy to go into more depth on things that you'd like me to go more in depth on, and happy to provide more information on things that need to be more information provided on. But with that said, this is what I plan on speaking about. So you are someone who has ridden a bike before, you know how to ride a bike, you like the bike you have. Maybe you're thinking about a second bike. Maybe you're thinking about, how do I know that the bike that I am using, is it the best for me? I feel slightly uncomfortable when I'm riding my bike in my body. Are there things I can do to make that better? I want to cover those things. I want to talk about the bike itself. In addition to the bike itself, I want to talk about, how do I carry things on that bike? Because if you are someone who's commuting to work, oftentimes you have to bring things with you. Is a backpack the best way? Are there better options? Are there other options? We'll go into what some of those are. I will go into some specific differences when it comes to bike types and carrying gear as well, and that can include cargo bikes and e-bikes. I want to spend a good amount of time talking about route planning. It's one thing to type in your address and then type in your work's address and then tell Google to tell you where to go. It's another to be confident in that route. It's another thing to know the specifics of what you'll see when you're on that route. And I'll talk about how to find those out without writing it yourself necessarily. There's information online about that stuff. And then finally, how do I get better at riding a bike? As silly as that sounds, I think, for some people, even those that ride every single day and ride a lot, there are things to learn, and there are bad habits and there are good habits. And so we'll talk about building some more of those good habits as well. My goal is to stop talking in 45 minutes, 50 minutes. That is a aspirational goal, but we will definitely be done by 1. And as said, this class is being recorded, and so we'll make it available to those of you that have registered afterwards. Okay, I'm babbling. Let's jump into it. First, let's talk about the bikes themselves before we get into anything else. So you're riding a bike, you have a bike, you'd like to get a bike, you know that bikes exist. That's great. Within the different bike types that exist, there are differences. One of the best ways to think about the different types of bikes that exist is, what am I using that bike for? So today we're focusing on this commuting style, this commuting type of trip. That said, you can use a recreational bike on a commuting trip. You can use a competitive bike on a commuting trip, but it helps to first frame the bike itself based on what you're going to be using it for. So people use cars for all different kinds of reasons. There are people that drive only classic cars. There are people that just use cars for going into competitions on weekends. And there are people that only use cars to get to work and never think about the car otherwise. Same concept with bicycles. When it comes to using a bicycle, you're usually thinking about using it in one of 3 different ways, be that recreational, commuting, or competitive. The main differences being, with recreational, fun is your main concern. Fun is not something I'm worried about when I'm talking about commuting, and oftentimes not something I'm worried about when I'm talking about being competitive. Doing things with family and friends are things that I'm doing when I'm talking about recreational rides. I'm oftentimes not riding with family and friends when I'm commuting or when I'm competitive. Commuting focuses on getting from point A to point B by bicycle. Frankly, the boring stuff. I like it when my bike rides are boring. I don't need it to be super fun every single time I get on a bike. It's nice when it's fun sometimes, I suppose, but a boring trip on a bike is a good trip oftentimes. I'm using the bike for utility. I'm using the bike to get from point A to point B. And so making sure I have a bike that can accomplish those things is important. So that brings us to the differences between different types of bikes for those different types of trips. Between recreational, commuting, and competitive, there are some fundamental differences between these bike types. Not only the way they look, but the way they feel, the way they ride, and what they're specifically designed for. Now, as I said, if you wanted to use a mountain bike to get to work, there's nothing that's stopping you from doing that. There's no rule that says that you shouldn't. And conversely, for competitive and commuting. If you wanted to use a commuter-style bike in a bike race, no one's going to stop you from doing that. The using the bike that's designed for the type of thing you're using it for is always going to be best. So I've found a good way to break this down is, with a recreational bike, weight and speed are not things I'm really worried about. A heavier bike is okay. A bike that isn't necessarily designed to go faster than everybody else is also okay. Fun is my priority, and frankly, comfort is my priority. Similarly, comfort is a priority when commuting. If I'm using this thing every day and every single time I get on it, I dread being uncomfortable, that's a problem. We can do things to address that. We can do things to make that easier. So we can do things to make it less uncomfortable. It's not, I think this is a phrase I use later on in the presentation, but discomfort is not inevitable. Anyone that says, well, I'm riding a bike and it hurts and I don't like the way it feels, but I'm doing it anyway. Great, I suppose, but also if it hurts and it's uncomfortable, that's a problem. We can do things to make it better. I'm not worried about comfort if I'm on a competitive style bicycle. Those are bikes that are probably going to be a little bit uncomfortable. We'll talk a little bit about body positioning and how it affects the 3 different types, or how the 3 different types of bikes affect body position. But being with one of the main things you can see just by looking at these 3 different bike types here is these handlebars are lower than the seat. Whereas on a commuter style bike, the handlebars are oftentimes higher than the seat. So the difference being a more bent over position with your back almost parallel to the ground, and a more upright position with your back perpendicular to the ground. So comfort is going to be affected by those things, obviously. And then the last thing I'll mention is when it comes to carrying things. On a recreational bike, maybe I've got a water bottle and some snacks, and that's about it. But I'm oftentimes bouncing around a lot, so carrying a lot of weight on the bike isn't necessarily the best way to do it. A commuter style bike, almost by definition, has a way to carry weight on the bike itself, be that a rack, be that a, well, the French term is panier or a panniers, or sort of backpacks that are designed for the bike itself. Whereas a competitive style bike, you're carrying nothing at all. Maybe a water bottle, and maybe you stick a banana in your back pocket, but that's about it. Um, so if you have one of these types of bikes already and you're using it for the way it's designed, that's great. There are things you can do to make it a little less or a little more designed for the type of trip you're taking. So recreational style bike, if I swapped out the handlebars and made it more upright style, maybe that'd make it more comfortable for me. I'm not saying that you need to buy a different bike for every single trip. There are some people that absolutely have the thought process of, well, I've heard this before. I have as many bikes as I have pairs of shoes because I have a different shoe for each activity. So I should have a different bike for each activity. That's the argument you can give your loved one when you're trying to justify the new bike purchase. I'm not saying that you have to have a different type of bike for every different type of purpose. But if you were thinking about purchasing a bike at any point in the future, there are a couple things to remember. One is don't be afraid of buying used, frankly. There are a lot of good used bikes out there that are absolutely worth looking into. It doesn't have to be a new bike every single time. Now, if you're planning on racing in triathlons and things, sure, I suppose, not getting a used one there, if you're investing the money is a good idea. But especially for these recreational style bikes, a mountain bike is a dime a dozen. You can find them all over the place. Garage sales, Craigslist, all kinds of different places. So for commuting, one of the things that's nice about the commuter style bike, and frankly the recreational style bike as well, is that swapping out components are easily accessible to you. So you're someone who rides a bike often. There are things you can do to customize that bike that don't necessarily involve buying a whole new bicycle. Swapping things like different seats, swapping things like different tires, swapping things like different handlebars are all going to affect the flow, the way you feel, your comfort level, and how the bike rolls. And again, that's not something that has to involve buying a whole new bike. Now, if you are buying a bike and you are buying a used bike, there are some things to look out for. And by the way, your first opportunity for audience interaction is coming up. So fingers on buzzers, please. So if I'm buying a used bike and the bike has a flat tire, that's not a reason not to buy that bike because it's not hard to fix a flat tire. If I'm buying a used bike and the tire is bent and the tire is broken in some way, the physical rim of the wheel has been bent in some way, that inherently itself isn't a problem necessarily because again, I can swap out the wheel and put a new wheel on. However, a bent wheel like that means most likely that the bike has been in some kind of crash. And if a bike has been in some kind of crash, that's probably a bike that you may want to avoid, frankly. A crack in a frame is not something that can be repaired. There are components of the bike that can absolutely be swapped out. And so having a slightly broken component is a good way to get a good deal on a bike. But a bike that's been in a major crash, a bike that has damage to the frame itself, those are things that can't be repaired. And so those are things to look out for. Here's your opportunity for audience interaction. The question's on the screen already. Who can tell me which of the components of the bicycle is labeled incorrectly? I've got handlebars, headset, top tube, saddle, seat tube, derailleur. It's a French term again. Tires, crank, pedals, wheels, frames. Jose says frame. Mario says fork is labeled frame. You are correct. So the frame of the bicycle is essentially the bicycle itself, I suppose. Pretty much everything else can be taken off of the bicycle and the bike is still a bicycle. But the frame itself, once the frame goes away, you don't have a bike anymore. So the arrow specifically for frame is actually pointing to the fork. Yes, so the part of the bike that connects to the wheel. You can see based on the colors and materials, this is a spring-loaded fork. This is a fork with suspension. That's pretty common with this mountain bike style bike. But yes, those of you who are keeping track of points, give 2 points to Jose. And I suppose yeah, you know what? You both came in at 12-15. So we'll call that a tie. So 2 points for each of you. Congratulations. Whoever gets the most points at the end gets a virtual high five. So keep an eye on the competition. Okay. When it comes to buying a used bike as well, again, as I said, the problems with the frame are big problems. Problems with the components are little problems. A bike that does not fit you is, within a certain extent, we can make small changes, but if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. How do I know it doesn't fit? One of the easiest ways I know, and again, this applies, or not again, for the first time, this applies to bikes with a top tube. So as you can see in the mountain bike style, this top tube is angled. It's not straight across. But on a traditional commuter style bike, and oftentimes on competitive bikes as well, you'll find that top tube that goes straight across. So as a general rule, if I can stand and comfortably have the bike between my legs, that's a good thing. If I can stand and the bike is the top tube, the top of the bike is down by my knees, that's probably a bad thing. And if I physically cannot get the bike between my legs, that's obviously a bad thing. You're going to be getting off of the bike, and when you get off of the bike, you'll probably be standing with the bike between your legs. So a bike that is too big to fit between your legs, no amount of swapping components is going to make this bike fit. And a bike that is so small, as this one is shown here, that it's between your knees, I can't put bigger wheels on this. I can't put a bigger seat on it. I can't put bigger handlebars on. I mean, I can do those things, but I can't do them to the point where it's going to all of a sudden fit. So the first thing I'm looking for is a bike that fits. And there are specific measurements you can look for, knowing your inseam and that kind of thing. But there is no substitute for getting on a bike, finding the bike that you like, seeing how it feels. I don't recommend necessarily buying bike sight unseen off the internet. Make sure you get to roll on it first before you're buying it. It's always going to be a good idea. I'm moving right along because I'm keeping an eye on time. Okay, so there's also going to be, the next slide is going to involve not only audience interaction, but your physical body. So be ready for some calisthenics. I exaggerate slightly, but we'll see how we do. So this positioning is one of many different types of body positioning that you can have. This is the most common one when we're talking about these traditional style of bicycles with essentially a horizontal top tube. And the lower handlebars. So as you can see, the handlebars on the saddle, it's another word for seat, kind of like a horse, are almost level, and the lower those handlebars get, the more competitive you're looking. The higher those handlebars get, the less competitive you're looking, and potentially your comfort is going to be changed a little bit. One of the things that this specific diagram helps me illustrate is there are 3 main points of contact between your body and the bicycle. One is your hands, the other is the saddle, and the other is where your feet connect to the bicycle. So you can get by with just 2 of those. It's easy to stand up on the bicycle and now you're no longer sitting and you still have, control over the bike. Even taking your hands off the handlebars and signaling, again, as long as I have those 2 points of contact, I'm good to go. And conversely, additionally, if I am sitting in the bike and I have my hands on the handlebars, but I take my feet off of the pedals, again, that's not going to cause me to crash. But if I get less than that, that's where the problem happens. So this specific body position allows me to split my weight pretty evenly in between the saddle, the handlebars, and the pedals. A more upright, sometimes they're called grandma bikes or Dutch commuter style bikes. A more upright position means I have more weight on my seat, more weight on my feet, and less weight on my hands. The weight is no longer distributed equally 3 ways. Instead, we're going down to 2. This can still absolutely be comfortable. There are other beneficial reasons for being more upright. I can see a little bit more. It feels a little more casual. It's a little nicer. But I sort of use this as an example of people aren't in this position just because they want to be aerodynamic. That's part of it. But it's also because it allows you to split your weight between these 3 points. So keep that in mind when you are on your bike and sort of pay attention to where your weight is when it comes to interacting with the bicycle. You can see in that picture, her ears are not protected by the helmet. Yes, that's true. I have seen little fuzzy things that you can put on the strap that make it so that the wind doesn't hit your ears so much and makes it easier to hear. A wind screen like this one for a microphone. Basically, it goes on the side of your head and helps you hear. So that is possible. Okay, here's your opportunity for audience interaction. And it's your opportunity to stretch your legs a little bit. So, the first thing I'd like you to do, because I assume you're all sitting, although I don't know that for sure, is scoot your body and just indulge me. I don't know if you're actually going to do this, but let's pretend. Let's scoot our bodies towards the edge of the seat. And Mike, I will get to your point about the full helmet, I promise. Scoot your body towards the edge of the seat. Now, without me giving you any more instruction, just stand up. So with your body towards the front of your seat, let's all stand up on 3. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations, you did it. See how that feels? Great. Now sit down. Now here's the thing that you did without realizing it. You leaned forward a lot when you stood up. So this time, with your body still sort of on the edge of that seat, and your feet directly underneath your body, stand up without leaning forward. So we're sitting on the edge of the seat. Our feet are directly below us. Try and stand up with keeping your back straight. Keep your head above your pelvis, keep your pelvis above your feet, and then try and stand. It's hard. It's very hard, frankly. This is an example of different body positioning. Yeah, it felt like a squat. Exactly right. Yes, exactly. So that's why squatting is an exercise and just getting out of a seat is not an exercise. And so using a bicycle, your body position is going to change the way you feel a lot. So a competitive style rider is someone whose seat of their body is directly above where their feet are, and they're leaning way forward. So we've got a straight line down, right, from where the seat is to where their feet are. A more relaxed style of riding, this is an extreme example, but a recumbent style bicycle. This person has no weight on their feet at all. All of the weight is on this nice big seat that, is nice and wide and carries most of your weight. I do have dogs in the house, sorry. So a recumbent style bike like this distributes your weight in a different way. And so I'm not saying that you should ride one of these recumbent style bicycles all the time, but be aware of how your body positioning feels when you're on this bicycle. And so am I uncomfortable when I'm riding the bike? The answer doesn't necessarily, a good answer isn't yes, of course. A good answer is yes, and why is that happening? There are things we can do to change that. So the seat itself can move forward and backwards. The seat itself can slide a little bit forward and slide a little bit backwards. If you have depending on the style of bike that you have, maybe you have a nice wide seat. I've seen e-bikes now that look like motorcycle seats almost. Try seeing how it feels with your body slid a little bit forward. See how it feels with your body sliding a little bit further back. And the position of the handlebars is an easy one to change as well. So not only moving the seat forward and back, tilting the seat up and down, but this handlebars, are they dropped down low? Are they up real high? There's a law that says that your handlebars shouldn't be higher than your shoulders. Because once you get way up here, it's harder to control the bike. But as long as they're up around your shoulder height, that's something that's comfortable for some people. Being really upright and, able to see what's going on around them, the opposite of that tucked down competitive position is an option for you. Not swapping out the whole bike, but just seeing what the options are as far as handlebars are things that can absolutely make your commute more comfortable. The standover height, the size of the bicycle itself, isn't something that can be easily changed. Now I can change the tires a little bit, so a big wide tire versus a skinny tire. I can change the pedals. Are they flat? Are they ones that I lock into and clip into? Those are small changes, but the distance between my hands and my seat is an easy thing easy thing to customize, and it's worth looking into. Now, there are specific machines that will tell you your exact best position at fancy bike shops. They, hook you up and they use measurements and all kinds of fun stuff. The easier way is change something. Does it feel better? Good. Try it a little bit more. Does it feel worse? Move it back to where it was. You're not going to break the bike by making these minor adjustments. So it's as easy as loosening a little screw at the bottom of the seat, sliding the seat forward or backwards. It's as easy as going to the bike shop, seeing what the different options are as far as handlebars, and trying them out. And then if you don't like it, you can return it. Your bike shop is your friend. They're a great resource, not only when it comes to just buying individual products, but providing advice, letting them know, hey, I feel like I should be more comfortable than I am. How do I make those changes happen? A tempting proposition is to get a seat that is very, very squishy. A tempting proposition is to get a seat that is very, very wide, a saddle that's very, very wide. The issue is, as I said before, the idea is you're supposed to be splitting your weight between those 3 points, the feet, the seat, and the hands. And if all of your weight is on the seat, then absolutely I understand the instinct to find the cushiest seat you can. The issue is, imagine pedaling a bike while sitting on a couch. You're not going to get a lot of force from your legs. If the legs can't push downward because the seat is in the way, then you're not really helping yourself a ton there. So a beach cruiser is a style of bike where the pedals are a little bit further out in front of you. You're laid back, you're chill, right? And so with something like that, you're not standing up on the pedals. You're not going uphill ever, probably. And if that's the case, then great. But if we're talking about commuting, you need to have the power from your legs. That's how bikes go, usually. We'll get into e-bikes in just a second. But being able to push down with the feet onto the pedal is a good thing. And a skinny saddle like this doesn't mean I have the entirety of my body weight onto this saddle. It means my body weight is split between the saddle, the feet, and the hands. And so if I'm conscious of that and changing my body to see how that feels, those are all things that are going to make me more comfortable. Absolutely switch out a seat to whatever makes you the most comfortable. But remember, comfort is one of the priorities, but also long-term comfort. So if I'm only going a block, maybe getting a big squishy wide seat is the best thing. But if every single day I'm going 10 miles, 15 miles, both ways, at a certain point, I'm going to want to trade off a little bit of that temporary cushion for a more long-term solution, something that benefits a longer ride. There's a lot of options. Okay, let's jump over to e-bikes. As I said, this is not an e-bike specific class. This is a class that covers a lot of different things, bike types and route planning specifically. We have classes that are specific to e-bikes. And so if you wanted to get really in depth on those, there are classes that cover that. And I'd be happy to go to your workplace and talk about them. I go to kids' schools and talk about these things. They're important. To work in Mike's comment about helmets, yeah. There are different types of helmets when it comes to riding bicycles. And the one that I keep coming back to, and this is especially important for younger folks, but it's true for adults as well. I assume you all know the law says if you're under the age of 18, you're required by law to have a helmet on your head when you're riding a bike. And if you're over the age of 18, you can make the decision for yourself, which is great. The helmets only work if you wear them, and they're only useful after something else has gone wrong. So what this means is they function sort of in the same way a seatbelt works, which is that a lot of times a seatbelt is just kind of there. It's not doing much. But when you need it, you can't put it on fast enough, so you always have the seatbelt on. Same concept with the helmet. All this is to say, any helmet is better than no helmet. It is better to have something on your head than to have nothing on your head. And I think that'd be a hard thing to argue against. Now, If you're consistently moving through space at 5 to 8 miles per hour, then a skateboard helmet is probably good for you. If you're consistently moving through space at speeds that are higher than that, then a bicycle helmet is probably best for bicycles. If you're consistently moving at 18, 20, 28 miles per hour, absolutely you can invest in a different style of helmet. They make e-bike specific helmets that are designed to take more of a impact because of how physics work. The faster you are, the more force it is when you hit the ground. A full motorcycle helmet that covers your whole head has benefits and has downsides. Being able to hear what's going on around you is going to be affected if you're, blocked into a thing. So the best helmet, and I get this question a lot, what is the best kind of helmet? The best kind of helmet is the helmet that you're actually going to wear. And I didn't like wearing helmets for a lot of my young adult life. And the thing that got me to do it is when I found a helmet that I actually liked. Once I found a helmet that was comfortable and that I wanted to put on, it was a lot easier to put that helmet on when I left the house. And if your helmet doesn't feel cool, frankly, if it feels uncomfortable, if it isn't a helmet that you like, you're not going to wear that helmet. And it doesn't work unless you wear it. So finding a helmet you like is always best. E-bikes come in a bunch of different types, and even within, as you will learn in the e-bike specific class, there is class 1, class 2, and class 3 legal definitions of different classifications of e-bikes. Even within those classifications, there are differences. So if you're thinking about buying an e-bike, not only should you pay attention to, is it a class 1? Is it a class 2? That's a e-bike with a throttle. Or is it a class 3? That's the faster e-bikes. But within those classifications, there are differences when it comes to where is the motor? Is it in the front wheel? Is it in the back wheel? Is it in the middle? Those are all things that are going to affect how the bike handles. How heavy is the bike? Is the battery in the bike frame or is it carried somewhere else? I've seen bikes that have the batteries over the back wheel on a rack. I've seen bikes that have the batteries built into the frame. Not only are there different classifications of e-bikes, but within those classifications, there are different types, and knowing what those are is going to be important. As I said before, never a good idea to buy a bike sight unseen. Always a good idea to buy a bike that you've actually ridden on before, that you sort of can have the experience of physically using. I won't spend too much time on this next slide, but suffice to say there are differences when it comes to e-bike classifications, and not only differences between the bikes themselves, but also the laws associated with those bikes. Class 1 e-bikes are bikes that have a top assisted speed of 20 miles per hour, but they do not have a throttle, which means the pedal operated only. Class 2 e-bikes, in theory, can have power that comes from the pedals, but their defining characteristic is that they do have a throttle. So a way to access that power without using the pedals. Both Class 1 and Class 2 max out at 20 miles per hour. Class 3 e-bikes max out at 28 miles per hour, and they also do not have a throttle. The big difference between Class 3 and the others is that there are certain places they're not supposed to be ridden. You have to be 16 in order to use them, and you have to have a helmet on no matter what your age. Anything beyond 28 miles per hour is not a bicycle. It's something else. Even if it has pedals, if it has a motor that pushes it beyond 28 miles per hour, in the state of California, it's no longer a bicycle. That's something else. It's a moped, it's a scooter with pedals, it's a motorcycle. There's a whole new world out there of stuff. So making sure if you are going to get an e-bike that it fits within these 3 classifications is a good idea. I'll talk about carrying stuff, and then yes, I'll also talk about how to make your when it comes to accessories on the bike, lights are considered as part of those accessories. Oh, Dana, I'll jump into your question real quick. Yes, because I didn't talk about bike access. So when we are on the road, when you're commuting, and this will be our preview of the how to plan your route section. Class 1 is a bike path, Class 2 is a bike lane, Class 3 is a bike route, and Class 4 is a separated cycling facility. A bike path is defined by its lack of car traffic. So Bayshore Bikeway, Inland Rail Trail, San Diego River Trail, paths, places that do not have bikes on them at all. Sometimes they have people walking dogs with really long dog leashes, but these are primarily recreational paths. So I'll leave it there. Class 2 is a bike lane, so that's paint that's on the road. It's oftentimes a road with cars. but there's a specific place for paint, and that paint is a specific place for bikes. If there is a bike lane, you're required by law to ride in the bike lane if it exists. Class 3 is a bike route. That's one of the more common ones, but it's essentially just a place where someone has said it's a good idea to ride your bike. You'll find signs that say bike route, but there's no physical separation, as opposed to the Class 4, which is a fully separated cycling facility. So a place where there's barriers, bollards, cones of some kind. Um, you'll find we're getting more and more of those across the county, especially newer and aspiring bicycle users like them because they feel a little bit safer being a little bit further separated from the cars. But all four of these different types of bike facilities have their benefits and their downsides. Yeah, so keep that in mind. We'll do a couple slides on carrying stuff, and then we'll go specifically into route planning. Okay, carrying gear. So you, as someone who's commuting, are using your bike to get from point A to point B. And sometimes that means running errands. Errands oftentimes mean carrying things. The thing I don't recommend is the backpack. It gets sweaty and the weight is high. What you want is the weight down low. And in fact, the lower the weight, the more stable your bike is going to be. A bike that's specifically designed to carry things is nice. But even a bike that isn't designed to carry things can have things added to it to make it easy to carry those things. So panniers are saddlebags. They're bags that are specifically designed to clip onto the bike, and they oftentimes will hold weight on either side of the wheels. So we're low. The weight is very low. These cargo bikes have weight that's slightly higher, but again, they're bikes that are specifically designed to carry that weight. And so because of that, they're going to be more stable. Having a whole bunch of weight really high up is absolutely something that's going to make you less stable. Trailers are absolutely an option. Physical thing that you can unhook and hook to the bicycle when you need it and when you don't need it is nice. They make trailers that are nice and big and carry 3 or 4 kids. They make cargo bikes that are nice and big and carry 3 or 4 kids, frankly. It's always fun. I go to schools a lot, and it's becoming more and more common that the parent rolls up past the big drop-off line of cars, goes right to the front of the school, and has a couple of kids pop out of the cargo bike. So that is an option. And with an e-bike combined with a cargo bike, now we're cooking with gas, as they say. So at that point, you're carrying a week's worth of groceries from Costco in a bicycle. It's absolutely a thing that happens. As I said, if you're not driving a specific e-bike that's designed to carry weight, there's nothing that says you shouldn't use a backpack, but you're going to be more comfortable if the weight is lower. You can see here, this is a specific surfboard rack specifically designed to carry surfboards on the bike. Without this, he's carrying it in his hands. Without this, he's balancing it on top of his head. Neither of those things are super comfortable. So what is it you're looking to carry? How much of it? How frequently are you carrying that weight? Don't be ashamed to put a basket on the front. It's kind of cutesy looking, I suppose, but it's pretty functional. And it's really nice to be able to just toss something in there real quick and not worry about it too much. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it. Okay, let's get into route planning. Class 3 e-bike should not take Murphy Canyon bike path. Great question. Okay, so I'll talk about ways to plan routes, and then I'll go into a little bit more of those specifics when it comes to those e-bike rules. Um, well, that's not true. Now I'm distracted. I'm going to talk about it anyway. So when it comes to where e-bikes are allowed to be used, it will depend a little bit on the specific city that you're in. And especially when it comes to off-road riding, we are not the Mountain Bike Association. There is another organization called the Mountain Bike Association. They focus on using these devices off-road. So if you want to get a mountain bike, and if you want to get an e-mountain bike, county land, federal land, state land, city land, private land. These are all going to have different rules when it comes to riding bikes on trails. And frankly, some of them will have different rules when it comes to riding bikes on paths. Regardless of what the law is in any one place, using the device that you're on, be that an e-bike or otherwise, and paying attention to your speed compared to the speed of other people around you is always a good idea. So as Ian mentioned, yes, on a class 3 e-bike, my average speed is 25, 26, 28 miles per hour. And at that speed, the differentiation between my speed compared to someone who's just walking is pretty high. You're going to be more comfortable around other people that are moving closer to your speed. So in downtown urban areas on a bicycle, I frankly feel a little bit more comfortable being in the road closer to the cars that are also all moving at 5, 10 miles an hour because of how many traffic lights there are and whatever else. So this is something that's important when it comes to route planning. On a car, I'm just thinking about freeways and I'm just thinking about probably the shortest distance between point A and point B. On a bicycle, I have other things to consider. Hills, sure, but also the types of facilities that I'm using. So as much as Google Maps and Apple Maps have gotten better at providing bike directions, even providing that option, that wasn't the case 15 years ago. Now they do have that little button for the bike, which is nice. One of the things that these maps aren't doing a great job of necessarily is differentiating between the different types of bike facilities that exist. So oftentimes when I'm planning routes for rides that we're putting on, or if I'm just planning to ride in a new place, knowing the different types of bike facilities is important. But to start, I think for most people, knowing where the hills are is important. And you'd be surprised sometimes thinking, well, there's got to be a hill between here and there. Turns out if I add on a certain number of miles, now I'm not on the shortest trip, but I am on the most comfortable trip. So by adding on 3 or 4 miles, I'm avoiding this hill and I'm not as sweaty and I'm more comfortable when I get to my place. So the Google Maps and the Apple Maps do a great job of showing where those hills are. The little guy that shows you the on-street conditions is a fun one to use when planning a route, especially if I'm going to a new place I haven't been before. I can see I'm going through some sort of intersection that seems a little funny to me. Using that street view on Google Maps or Apple Maps is helpful. I know ahead of time at the street view level what this intersection is going to look like, so that when I do write it for the first time, I can better understand where my positioning is supposed to be. And if you want more information about lane positioning, that is something that we cover in Bike Commuting 101. So the Google Maps and the Apple Maps are nice. The SANDAG, sponsor plug, regional bike map is an excellent option. So the SANDAG bike map does a great job of differentiating between the different types of bike facilities that exist. As previously discussed, class 1, class 2, class 3, and class 4. They go into nice detail on specific areas, including around UCSD and downtown San Diego. The Bayshore Bikeway is a real popular one, and on the bike map, you can see it's a whole fully separated facility across the whole of the bay. The nice thing about these bike maps is that they are physical, which means you can hold them in your hand. They also exist virtually, and Melina's been nice enough to put the link in the chat right now, so I'm not offended if you click that and look at it as I talk. The fun thing about the bike maps is, though, that they do get out of date, which is a good thing. We're putting in facilities faster than we're printing maps. I like that. So referring back to the virtual option, comparing that option with the comparing the SANDAG one or combining the SANDAG information with the Google Maps and the Apple Maps is a great way to do it. They not only provide information based on the different types of facilities, but they do provide information about hills. Little V's here you can see mean steep incline. So if you get your nose real close to the screen, you can see here through Pershing, they've indicated that yes, that is a separated bikeway. It's also a steep bikeway. And so those arrows on there will show you where those steep bikeways are. So are these maps, does the SANDAG map say that these are the only places you're allowed to ride bikes? Absolutely not. Just because a street doesn't have a color on it doesn't mean it isn't a space you're supposed to ride. But if you're someone who's looking for a place to feel more comfortable, if you're looking for specific cycling facilities in San Diego, the SANDAG bike map is a great way to do it. It is available in print. It is available virtually. You can come down to our office. Frankly, I've got some extra ones. 315th Street, downtown San Diego. Come say hi. You can also find them at any of the events that we do out in public. We'll bring bike maps with us. You can also find them at local bike shops oftentimes. We do drop off a lot at local bike shops. and they'll be able to share those with you. So yes, they exist. They're pocket-sized. The most recent version literally fits in your back pocket, which is kind of nice. The other fun thing that you'll notice on this map that's listed is not only the ferry terminals, coaster stations, and bike lockers, but also the velodrome. So San Diego County is home to the only, I think, outdoor bike racing velodrome uh, this side of the Mississippi, probably. There are other bike racing facilities, but a lot of them are indoors in other places. Ours is one of the only ones that's outdoors, which is kind of fun. They do bike races throughout the week and on the weekends, especially through the summer. So if you're interested in seeing what it looks, what a real bike race looks like, they sometimes call it hipster NASCAR. So come out and see the bikes. It's a lot of fun. Okay. Don't stop putting those questions in if you got them, because I promise I'll get to them as we get closer to the end here. If we were, so this, let's see. This is a virtual class, obviously. We're not on bikes. Maybe some of you are riding bikes while you're watching this, but I highly doubt it. So what that means is everything I'm talking about essentially is theory. There's also practice, and practice is physically getting onto the bicycle. So almost half, or maybe even more than half now, of bike crashes that occur are solo falls. They're crashes that occur when no one else is around. It's just you. It's the most embarrassing type of bike crash as well. But what that means is it's a type of bike crash that can be prevented by just you knowing how to control the bike, knowing how to do different things with the bike. Something that can help you do that is absolutely, attending a physical class. We put on a lot of them. Our city cycling classes are popular. Our bike rodeos are popular. There's a bunch of different things to learn with a certified instructor. There are also a bunch of things to learn just on your own. So something as simple as getting comfortable riding the bike, only having one hand on the handlebars. Being able to ride with no hands is impressive, I suppose, but there's not a safety related reason I can think of for doing that. Riding with one hand absolutely is. Being able to signal, being able to look behind you, these are all comfortable things. So practicing riding with one hand isn't something that requires an instructor to be there with you. Taking your body out of the seat of the bicycle and standing up on the pedals is a skill, and it's something that absolutely comes in handy. On a hill, being able to stand up and pedal is nice. Being able to stand up with straight legs and look around you while the bike is still rolling is nice. Getting off of the bike by standing up in the pedals first and then stepping down is something that's going to make you more comfortable. So that's, again, something you can practice just on your own. Quick turns and rock dodges are things that require at least a little bit of instruction, and you can find information about that at our classes, but you can also find information about it at the San Diego Bike Coalition YouTube page. We've got all kinds of information about all kinds of different skills to learn, and a lot of these videos are less than 10 minutes, less than 5 minutes even, and you can learn all kinds of different things. Anybody know the error that the bicyclist is making in this image? It is not that they're not wearing wrist braces or knee pads. The only laws when it comes to wearing protective gear are helmets, and that's because helmets are more important, and that's because the brain doesn't really repair as fast as limbs do. So there's no law that says you have to have wrist guards or knee pads or shin guards or shoulder pads or anything else. If you want to wear them, you're absolutely welcome to. Jesse gets 2 points. Congratulations. Right foot down when turning right. Bikes, this is something you'll learn when you learn about the quick turn and the rock dodge, especially. Bikes don't turn by turning the handlebars. Turning handlebars doesn't make bikes turn. Leaning makes bikes turn, and the handlebars can help the bike lean. And it's important to remember when leaning, if I'm leaning the bike to the right and that pedal is down, it is not impossible and frankly is not uncommon that the pedal can hit the ground and scare you a little bit, and at worst, absolutely make you fall over. So something to remember, whatever side you're turning into, that's probably the side that should have the pedal in the up position, higher, and as opposed to being closer to the ground. Great job, Jesse. 2 points. Okay, we're getting closer to the end here. We're at 12:50. I'm over time already. SANDAG offers a bunch of different options when it comes to commuting, van pool and rideshare and all kinds of fun stuff. If you are someone who rides a bike, one of the nice things they offer is they'll subsidize the cost of a ride home. So if the reason you didn't want to ride your bike to work is because, oh, well, what if something happens? I have to get home quickly. Great. We've gotten an answer for that. I rode my bike to work. Something happened. I have to get home quickly. Great. Take a Lyft, take an Uber, take a taxi, take a ride share of some kind, and then get reimbursed for that trip. You can find more information about it by looking up Guaranteed Ride Home on the SANDAG page, or just click the link that Melina has graciously put into the chat. It's a cool service that not a lot of people know about. As I discussed previously, there's a bunch of different types of bike crash classes. Well, there's different types of bike crashes also, but classes right now. What we just did is talked about Bike Commuting 202. There is also, if you haven't taken it, and I hope you have, Bike Commuting 101, all about e-bikes, bike-friendly driving class, and then even bike maintenance quick checks. So bringing a bike mechanic to your specific workplace and talking about your bike and doing some minor repairs. We're not, taking a bike that doesn't work and turning it into a bike that does, but taking a bike that works, but maybe I need a little more air, or maybe I need a little grease on the chain, or there's minor repairs they can do. So those are all things that we can offer. The QR code brings you to our page to sign up for the employer program. And you can find information about that on the SANDAG webpage. So there's more to learn. This is just the introduction to the topic, even if it is 202. With that, let's scroll back and see if I missed any of the questions. We'll start up at the top and continue to put them in the chat as I go. So let's see. Oh, attire. Yes, cold weather. Great. So, I mean, cold is a relative term, obviously. As someone who's born and raised in San Diego, anything below 70 is what I would consider pretty chilly. The important thing to remember when riding bikes is layers. So things, dressing in layers. So if the only thing I'm wearing is a big heavy coat and I don't have the ability to take that coat off, I'm probably going to be uncomfortable. But more than one layer is a good way to do it. So I've got the heavier jacket on the outside, a lighter windbreaker inside that, and then my shirt on underneath. So as the ride goes, I can make adjustments. A hot day is a hot day if I'm stationary, but a hot day can get a little bit cooler if I'm moving and I have air flowing over me. So it's one thing to see the specific number on the temperature gauge and another to feel what it feels like when you're actually riding. That said, it's never fun to show up to work already sweaty. So I do know people that keep a change of clothes at the office and swap them in and out. But the other thing is not every trip on a bike has to be a sweaty trip. So slowing down, taking your time, not pushing, give yourself more time. A trip that could be done in 30 minutes, give yourself an hour to take that trip. And now when you show up, you're not stressed out. You're not worried about time. You're not sweaty. It's not inevitable that every trip be a workout. This doesn't have to be exercise if you don't want it to be. There's ways to get around it. Let's see. That one's answered. That one's answered. Helmets. Da, 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 da. Thank you for your compliment. Yeah, Mike, as I said, the wrist braces and knee pads, again, there's all measure of things. I think one of the catchphrases I've heard when riding motorcycles is that you should dress for the slide, not for the ride. Because if you do fall off that motorcycle, you're going to be sliding. And if you're sliding, you're going to want to have long pants on and long sleeves on. In theory, similar for bicycles. The big one with that is I wouldn't recommend closed or open-toed shoes. I have talked to people who've lost toenails that way. So, you want to be comfortable. You want to not be hot, but you also want to be functional. And so it doesn't mean you have to dress in all spandex every single time you get on a bike. Absolutely. But it does mean that seeing what the options are. Wearing something that is designed for cycling isn't necessarily something to be dismissed. There's ways to do it, and it doesn't mean that you have to buy something super expensive. Let's see. Got a hernia. That's no good. Knee pads, I've fallen off my bicycle and stopped and not paying attention to what I'm doing, so now I wear as much safety as possible. Yeah, it's funny. One of the sort of things that is not intuitive is that it's harder to ride a bike slow than it is to ride a bike fast. Riding a bike fast is easy. Riding a bike slow is hard. So one of the things we do with the kids is called a turtle race. Last one across the line wins, and you get some pretty silly movements there. But being able to practice on a bicycle is something that can be done at our classes, but it's also something you can do on your own. So yeah, being aware of how the bike moves underneath you, and then yeah, changing your clothes to match that. If I'm someone who falls over a lot, then investing in more materials. If I'm someone that gets sweaty easily, changing out my clothes and getting something that is more breathable and lighter is a good idea as well. Okay. Can I find a copy of the map you were showing? The link took me to an interactive map. I'm interested in the images on the edges. Yeah, well, the interactive map should have a legend on the side that shows the different things that are available when it comes to different cycling facilities and also the bike lockers and coaster stations and then other stuff as well. So there is a legend on that online bike map. I've definitely seen it. So click around and see if you can find it. That said, the physical map does exist, and you can find it at our offices at the Bike Coalition. You can find it at the SANDAG offices, and then at bike shops as well. Is there a website you recommend or YouTube channel? So, I mean, our San Diego County Bicycle Coalition has some good videos. They don't have, I haven't made a bunch of videos necessarily about the different types of bike parts that exist. Where can I find information to learn about different bike parts and what is best for my commute type of wheels for dirt paved roads? Yeah. So, I mean, there are probably videos you can find. The other one is if you're, in theory, the end of your trip, the end of your journey when it comes to learning about this stuff is buying something different. So, why not start at the place where you're going to be buying those things? Leave your wallet at home the first time, but go into the bike shop and just say hi, see what they have, start the conversations. They want to talk to you. They love talking about bikes. It's why they're there. So they're going to have recommendations about different types of things, and the different options that exist to you are things that you can learn about for sure online. But talking to someone in person who can show you the differences between those things is great. And again, you're not pressured to buy right away. Go back, come back, say hi, get to know them better. Mike, your email said you were going to go over defensive maneuvers and riding skills. You're going to go over those topics. Yeah, I mean a little bit. So, like I said, the Bike Coalition YouTube page. The issue with those defensive maneuvers, be they quick turn, rock dodge, quick stop, those are all things that I can talk about a little bit and point you in the direction of. If this was a longer class, we'd walk through those videos together. Ideally, you're learning about those, you're really going into in-depth information about those when you're with someone who can walk you through them. The quick turn, the rock dodge, the quick stop, those types of defensive maneuvers. I'll educate you to their existence here, and I'll talk about, as I said before, things like one-hand riding, standing on pedals. Being able to control your bike and feel comfortable on your bike is essentially a defensive maneuver. If I act like I am supposed to be there, if I feel confident when I'm riding my bike, then I'm more likely to be treated like I'm confident when I'm riding my bike. So gaining confidence through experience on the bike is good. Gaining even more experience by attending one of our classes. And even if you don't want to do that, go ahead, find the Bike Coalition's YouTube page, find those videos. And I'm out of time, or else I'd go into even more detail on them. But feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm Kevin at sdbikecoalition.org. The thing to shout when you see me on the street is Mr. Kevin. And feel free to reach out via our social media pages as well. And I think that's where I have to leave it. We're at time. It's 1 o'clock. It went so fast. Hope your lunch went well. Don't hesitate to reach out. You're going to get an email from us afterwards that has links to the things that I mentioned, probably a survey and a link to the video as well. So thank you so much. We'll see you on the road. And yeah, that's it. Thanks, guys.